I struggle with asking for help. Is there anybody here that can say the same? Actually, by a show of hands, who else, you put your hand up, you say you're like me and you struggle to ask for help? Well, to some, asking for help at times can feel like admitting defeat. It can feel like admitting inadequacy. And really, that's just our ego that makes us feel that way. Because the truth is, when we find the right person, asking for help is often the difference between defeat and isolation and victory in community. Like with furniture, for example. If you're putting together a piece of furniture but get stuck halfway through, you may call for help from a parent or older sibling. They know more than you, right? So they may come in and fix a few pieces that you had wrong, a couple twists, a few pops, and before you know it, what at one point felt like an impossible nightmare of a construction project is now a well-assembled gaming chair. What was the difference? You let someone else come in and make what was wrong right. What we're saying is that there's a benefit to letting someone else into your situation, whatever it may be. It has to be the right person, but nevertheless, it can be a great recipe for something good to happen. The question is, why don't we let more people into our situations more often? The first is pride. We all have it, we all deal with it, but in different ways. Someone once said that pride is like bad breath. Everyone else knows you have it, but you. And our pride is simply that, man. It keeps people at bay. It makes us feel like we have to be indestructible and always put together. The second one is lack of knowledge. Sometimes we don't know how to let someone else in and help us. And I get it. We live in a do-it-yourself world. Like there's whole channels on TikTok and YouTube about DIY projects. So rather than turning to an actual human to help us, we turn to a screen. The problem is, sometimes the thing we need to make right isn't as easy as fixing a chair. Sometimes the wrong thing we need to make right is us. You probably felt the tension of not wanting to invite someone else in to help you move past something terrible you've done because you don't want anyone else to know. You don't want anyone else to know how you treat that one person when no one's looking. You don't want anybody to know the shortcuts you've taken in school. You don't want anybody to know the lies that you've told, the things that you've covered up in the other life that you live. And so, as if these secrets and wrongs of your heart were an IKEA chair, you either shove your shame down and keep trying to fix things yourself, or you occasionally turn to the internet for answers from strangers and articles on how to fix you. And I get it. I do. I've been there. But how's that going for us? Like really, how is that actually going for us? Well, in this series, we're exploring how our lives can change in a moment. Specifically, we're exploring a few key moments that people in the Bible have had with Jesus in hopes that we can begin to have more of and experience the fullness of moments with God in our own lives. And since it sounds like we can agree some of us are carrying around some pretty tough secrets and mistakes and total isolation, hopefully what we talk about today will be helpful for you. Here's the deal. Today I want to focus our attention on the book of Luke. Now, last week, we said that there's a genre in the Bible called the Gospels. This is still true this week, but if you're unfamiliar with these books, they're the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And what they do is they chronicle the life and the ministry of Jesus here on earth. Now, a little background on Luke. Luke is a physician by profession and cares for people. We have good reason to believe that he was a person who knew the great apostle Paul, but we don't really have knowledge of him actually knowing Jesus. We believe, due to his book, that he learned about Jesus through eyewitness accounts. Through these, he became a believer and wrote a book so that others might come to know and love Jesus too. Now, Luke is interesting in his approach because he constantly shows how Jesus cared and was compassionate with people, even people with bad habits and dark secrets. So today we're going to start it right here. Luke chapter 19, verse 1. Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. Now right here, let's hit pause. Some of you probably already know this, but tax collectors were hated by society back then. The reason was pretty simple. Zacchaeus, a Jew, had made a living charging the Jewish citizens extra taxes and giving a cut to the Roman government. He was a traitor. He was a liar. He was a cheat. And the fact that he was a chief tax collector suggests that he had been that way for a long, long time. If you've ever made a mistake or a series of mistakes in life that ruin your status, your reputation, your image. You've experienced a taste of what Zacchaeus' life was like. Sure, he was rich in money, but he was poor in friends, poor in support systems. He was isolated. Now let's go to verse 3. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass by that way. Now, right away, there may be some of you that are fighting the temptation in your head to sing the song many children grew up singing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. It's not a song that's currently on the top 100 on any playlist, okay? So don't even worry. But from Luke's account, we find that Zacchaeus was small in height. So side note, if you hate being short in height right now and you can't stand it, don't worry, there are important people in the Bible that were also short. But verse 5 says this: when Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his height in great excitement and joy. And while I don't think Zacchaeus fully realized who this Jesus guy actually was, I would imagine Zacchaeus was shocked at this interaction. Check this out. To him, Jesus was a celebrity, a bigwig, a huge deal. And not only that, but Jesus was a huge deal for being this great spiritual teacher. Given how immoral Zacchaeus' lifestyle was, I'm sure the last thing he was expecting was for Jesus to see him, call him by name, and then actually ask to step into his world. But that's how the God of the universe is. No matter what you've done, how bad you've been, or how poor your reputation is among your peers, Jesus sees you, calls you by name, and he asks to step into your world. Verse 8 says this: meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half of my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I've cheated any people, if I've cheated anyone on their taxes, I'll give them back 4 times as much. What I want to put our attention on is the fact that letting Jesus into your life helps make wrong things right. When Zacchaeus took the step of letting Jesus into his home, that was his best step. He could have done what we do and shut everyone else out, including Jesus. He could have refused the help. He could have let his shame over what he had done and who he had been take over, rejecting Jesus' offer, and missed out on an absolutely life-changing moment. But Zacchaeus didn't do that. He let Jesus in, and a lifetime of mistakes and bad decisions were redeemed in just one moment. So what about you? What situation do you find yourself in that you're shutting God out from stepping into? Look, I know we all fall short of being where we should be. We all are not put together in the ways we'd like to be. Sin causes wrongs in all of us. If you told me the worst things that you've ever done, I might be shocked. If you guys started to stand up one by one and everyone shared the worst things that they've done, we all might be shocked together. If I told you the worst thing that I've ever done, if I told you right now, you might be shocked. But you know who isn't shocked? The all-knowing God of the universe, who created each of us and died for us, knowing we would mess up. So let Jesus step into your world. Let Jesus step into your imperfections, your shortcomings, your failures. It doesn't matter that you've piled up a lifetime of failures and mistakes and secrets. If you'll put away your pride and shame and invite Jesus in, he can change all of that in just a moment. So here's the point. Jesus redeems a lifetime of wrong in a moment. As we said last week, the goal of this and my goal is to encourage you. Life has good moments, but also not so good moments. The choice in those moments is ours. We can either shut out Jesus because we're ashamed or we're too prideful, or we can let him into the home of our life like Zacchaeus did. It can seem scary, but all we have to do is simply pray and invite him in, and Jesus will come in. You can actually even pray something like this. Let me give you a prayer to pray. Dear Jesus, thank you for your heart to save those that are lost. I want you at this moment to know that you are invited into my heart and my life. There are some wrong things. I want to be made right. Please help me in these areas. I want to experience a life-changing moment of redemption with you. Thank you. Amen.